Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Career Transitions is Now the Right Time, a program presented by the Loudoun County Public Library System. My name is Jeremy Worley, and I'm the library assistant in the programming department of LCPL and your host today. Making a career change can be overwhelming when you make that initial move. Hopefully, this program will assist you in developing a plan to help you find a fulfilling new career. Please feel free to send me any comments and questions you may have during the program by using the chat feature at the bottom, and I can relay them to our speaker. It is now my pleasure to introduce Sheila Murphy, partner and co-founder of Flex Professionals, a firm that matches experienced professionals seeking meaningful employment with growing businesses in need of top talent. Sheila oversees candidate recruiting and screening, support services for job seekers, as well as human resources for Flex Professionals. Before we start, I must recommend on the LCPL YouTube website watching Sheila's video, Build a Compelling Resume. It was an incredibly informative talk and a great asset to help you when you were on the job search. Thank you for being here today, Sheila.
Thanks, Jeremy, and welcome everyone. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit about the current workforce and workplace and labor market, because so much has changed in the last year and a half that really makes it a great time to consider a transition. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll move on to the meat of this webinar today and provide you with some actionable, practical tips to consider and things to consider as you explore a career transition. And then we'll briefly talk about imagining your quit for those of you that are currently working and might want to take a look at your job right now before you leave and go, is there something I could do to make this job better? And then, of course, at the end, I will leave plenty of time for questions. Feel free to use the Q&A. I suspect this might be a small group today. Ask as many questions as you want. Give me as much background as you can about your own career story and what you're looking for, so I can, in my answering questions, can give you some tips related to your needs. A little bit about Flex Professionals before we start. I own a staffing firm, but it is a staffing firm with a niche. We specialize 100% in flexible work. So 80% of our jobs are part-time job opportunities. So we do have some full-time flex, but we only source if the employer is truly has a flexible work environment. So our jobs range from anywhere from 10 hours a week to 32 hours a week. And we tend to work with job seekers that are in transition. They are either professionals, oftentimes caregivers, that have gaps in their resumes due to caregiving. So they've left the workforce to take care of either aging parents, of taking care of children, sometimes for personal reasons or health reasons, and they're looking to re-enter after having an extended career break. We work with professionals scaling back, working 40 hours a week, 50, 60 hours a week, and they don't want to do that anymore. They still want to stay engaged, but they want reduced hours to meet needs at home. And then we also work with what we call second career professionals, those who could retire, but either for personal or financial reasons aren't ready to retire yet. They just don't want to be engaged in the workforce full time. So we work with employers all over the DC metro area. We have awesome employers in Loudoun County. If our model is of interest to you, we can give you access to jobs, and there is no cost on your part to join our network. There is no obligation on your part to join our network. So at the end of this presentation, I will give you contact information for me and our website, where you can, it's at the bottom of this slide as well, where you can go and submit your resume, or even just peruse our job board to see if there's any types of job opportunities out there that you might be interested in. So moving on, the year of transitions. 2020 was a year of transition, and 2021 is certainly showing to be to be the same. And I would even suspect that 2022 is going to be that way as well. So what's happening out there? What is going on? We are seeing an incredible change in the labor market, and not only in the market, but in the workforce and also in the workplace. So I'm just going to talk about this for a second because these are real motivating factors. They pose some challenges for those of you looking to change careers, but more importantly, they pose opportunities for you. So there's about 5 million fewer jobs out there than before the pandemic. So the recovery is fast. It's been fast, especially in comparison to prior recessions, but the recovery is very uneven. There's large disparities in hiring by industry. So look for the opportunities here as you consider to transition. There are opportunities in many sectors: technology sector, construction, home design, interior design, real estate, home improvement, landscaping. Even if you don't want to be a landscaper, there's opportunities in that industry to do marketing, to do human resources, to do sales. So look at those industries. Obviously, the ones that have shrunk is the hospitality, the retail, the restaurant industry for sure. But there are opportunities out there. The second bullet here, the pandemic has taken an incredible toll on women in work. It's so sad, but we have erased all of the gains in this past decade. 12.2 million women left their jobs in 2020, and almost 5 million of them have yet to return to work or have stopped looking, which raises a whole slew of different issues. We could talk about that all day. But why I point this out is, as much as it's a Debbie Downer, for those of you listening in that are females and that are looking to get back in and looking to do something different, employers are going to be open to you because there's been so much about this that a smart employer is going to look to attract women who are looking to return. And I think that is a real opportunity it's a real opportunity that hasn't been afforded to women before, to be able to go back into the workforce with some more confidence and with the ability to pivot. There's a mismatch right now, a significant mismatch in the DC metro area between the number of job openings out there and the job seekers that are either qualified for those jobs or who have a preference for those jobs. So this is a real problem nationwide, but particularly in the DC metro area. There are two areas here. There are technical jobs in the DC metro area, and I would highlight cloud computing and data analytics and web and software development as the highest demand technical jobs in the DC metro area. And there's a lack of job seekers that are qualified for those jobs. Now, you might be thinking, why is she talking about this in a webinar for career transitions? The reason why I say it is if you have a technical aptitude, a math aptitude, an aptitude for STEM related work, this is a great time to consider as part of your transition to go to explore STEM fields, because that's where the job opportunities are. Surge in retirements. Millions of more people have retired than expected. So what does that mean for somebody in career transition? There are job openings. There are knowledge gaps that need to be filled at companies right now. So remember that. And then amplifying that need is the fact that 2021 has been labeled the year of the resignation. We have seen a 13% increase in the number of resignations this year. And people are resigning for a whole variety of reasons. Some are resigning because The pandemic has changed how they think about work. It has created passions in them. It has created a distaste maybe for what they're doing and a desire to just get a fresh start and do something different. Many of you might feel that way that are on this webinar. It has fueled resignations because people have been asked to go back to work and they don't want to go back in person. They want remote. And the flip side is that there are other companies that have said, we are going remote, and people are leaving because they need that human interaction and want to go back on site at least part of the time. So lots of shifts here, and not all for the same reasons. And we're also seeing a lot of talent wars and pay increases. So this is also a confidence booster for those of you who are transitioning. Often when you transition, you need to be realistic, and I still think you do, in terms of pay. But this is also an opportunity to hone your negotiation skills, because companies are having a hard time finding talent. So there's a lot of, the job seeker is really in the driver's seat right now in terms of your ability to negotiate for flexibility and to negotiate pay. So bottom line of all of this is a great time to pivot. Companies are more open to people who have a passion, who have a desire, who have transferable skills, but might not necessarily have all of the experience that match up to the job posting. So don't disqualify yourself right now when you see job postings where you feel that a certain percentage of the job posting you're not qualified for. I say go for it. Go for it and submit that resume. Women in general, if they see that they don't have the work experience needed for a job, they disqualify themselves much more quickly than men do. So if you are feeling as if you have that tendency to disqualify, my advice to you is to target that resume, and we'll talk about that later, and go for that job, because there's really going to be less judgment out there with regard to change and with regard to whether or not you're 100% qualified for the job that you are interested in. So what else is changing? The great reassessment is taking place when it comes to the workplace. What does the workplace look like? What do employers need to provide in employees? And what do job seekers and employees want? So flexibility is now a business imperative. It's not a perk. The hybrid model of work is likely to continue. The challenge of the workplace right now of employees is, how do we make this work? How do we make this new workplace where half of our employees are at home, or 80% of our employees at home and 20% are on site? How do we make it equitable for all? How do we make it inclusive? Job seekers are really reassessing what they want because of this care crisis that has been exacerbated by the pandemic, both elder care and child care. They're rethinking their work preferences, their values, their priorities. Most of you on this call fall into that bucket. You're probably transitioning either because of something internal or external. We'll talk more about that as well. You're going to find that in this change, and as you transition, the tech savvy worker is going to benefit. So your ability to show that you're tech savvy throughout this process is really important. And your challenge is going to be to, when you find that job, to be able to negotiate and to manage the flexibility that you want. So again, a lot of what's going on out there, I think, really is an opportunity as you transition to something new to not only get the work you want, but to get that work environment and work culture that you want. So as you think through your transition, don't just add the type of job you want, think about it as that, but also the workplace and the work culture. Because my guess is that most of you that wants to transition is because you have a lot of work experience. So those other two things, those work values, workplace, work culture, those should be priorities for you too as you think through this. So let's just start with, is this the right time for you to transition? Sometimes we get so desperate. Either we're out of work or we're so desperate in the job that we have that we jump to transition without thinking through, is it the right time? And the factors that are related to this are different for everybody, right? So what is it that, what can you tolerate and what can't you tolerate right now? So do you have the support structures in place at home to be able to make a transition? Whether that's childcare, whether that is other types of support structures in place. So sometimes we want to transition, but the timing isn't right. We have a partner, for example, who's out of work or whose job is not quite sure what's going to happen with the layoff. Timing might not be right for you to make that change, especially if you you're you provide the health benefits to your family. It's important to look at your stability in the industry you're in versus the stability in the industry you want to get into. Is the role that you aspire to, is it one that's going to give you the stability that you need? Is the role that you have right now more or less stable, and why? So think about that. What's your tolerance? You know, how much do you have in savings just in case you make that leap and it doesn't work out? Or how much padding do you have if the job that you want to transition to, in order to get into the field you want to transition to, you might have to go part-time at first, or you might have to do it as a 1099 and not as a W-2 employee with benefits, right? And so looking at these factors and giving yourself, before you take that leap, an opportunity to sort of assess, why is it that you want to change? Are you wanting to change just because you are just crazy frustrated in your job and you don't really know what it is you want to do next? That's probably the most dangerous time to change. Jumping out of one job that you don't like into another job and just hoping that you'll like it is not a good enough reason to change. And it's certainly not a good enough reason for an employer to hire you. So you really have to take this opportunity to reflect on what your key skills are and why you think you want to change either the industry or the role to better fit what your personality traits are, what your key skills are, and what your kind of life goals are. So reflecting is really important. So having said that, I'm going to give you some more hardcore tips for transitioning right now. And the first few tips do focus on this need to reflect and assess. And then the remaining tips are much more related to the job search process. So the first tip, take a look at why you want to transition. So are the reasons for transitioning internal to you or external? So an internal would be, for example, I have discovered my passion, and perhaps it's through your volunteer work. And it's really, I'm at the point in my life that I want to no longer be in the corporate for-profit world, but I want to transition to a nonprofit environment. And I want to use the same skills that I'm using now, maybe as an accountant or in finance, but I don't want to do it for a e-commerce company. I want to do it for a nonprofit that is focused on the environment. So that's internal. An external change would be, I hate my work. My job is, my boss is a nightmare, and I'm being micromanaged, and I'm now working from home, perhaps, and feel isolated. That's external reasons why you want to make a career change, right? So understanding those reasons is going to give you a better idea of what type of company to target next. And you might have a combination of some internal and external. Is your reasons for your unhappiness or your reasons to change, is it temporary or permanent? So we found a lot of people last year were itching to change because they were either being forced to go into work and they didn't want to, or they were feeling isolated at home and it was making them miserable in a job that they used to love. But that was temporary for many of those people. So just make sure if it's temporary, sometimes you might want to hold out a little bit or have those discussions with the company that you're working for right now to figure out what the future might look like before you decide to jump ship. So what are your priorities for a career transition? What are your showstoppers? What are your must-haves? And what are the things that you don't care so much about? Is the title of your job super important? Is making a certain amount of money super important? Is having benefits a priority? Is it a work environment that is informal, or a work environment that is super academic, or a work environment that is super collaborative? Is that a priority for you more than the kind of job that you're doing? So look ahead at the future, at what you want. Many of us fall into this career wayfinding. Many of us, if you look back at your own career stories, the majority of people fall into the jobs that they have, not because they've really thought it through, but just because life happened and opportunities came your way or challenges came your way and it forced you to take a job or not take a job, or something happened in your life like a relocation, or you met a friend who happened to have a friend. And sometimes we get to our jobs through happenstance. And taking a look at this point as you look to transition, to look at your career path and why you took what jobs that you did and how you got to where you are, is sometimes a great way to help you figure out what you're going to do moving forward. So again, this is just a great time to sort of assess that and use it as a way to gain some sort of internal intel as you self-explore that might be helpful to you as you move forward. Be aware of influence. Oftentimes when we get frustrated and want to make a career change, we are very influenced by other people, what other people tell us to do. I have a friend, for example, who owns her own financial services company. She advises individuals on their financial portfolios. And she was told early on by her parents that women didn't go into that type of field and that she ought to be a teacher. So sometimes we're influenced by what other people think. And even now, as you consider your transition, you should get feedback from other people and you should ask them for input. But just be careful that sometimes people will give you messages that are well-intended, but that aren't helpful. So just being aware of that sometimes gives you the freedom to assess what people are saying and telling you, and to give you permission to sort of pause and to reflect about what it is that you really want to do. So this is the part that gets more practical here. When I interview people through my work, and I interview tons of people that come in every day that or tired of what they're doing and want to do something different. And I look at their resume, and too often their resume reflects their strengths and their experience and their skills that they used in the past and is not enough of a reflection of what they want to do in the future. And I'll look at their resume and I'll say to them, so, okay, so it sounds like from having spoken to you for the last 20 minutes that you're really ready for a change. And I will say to them, so what is it that you want to do next? And they will say to me, that's a good question. I'm actually very open. I'm very open to many different opportunities. I'm just exploring opportunities right now. The problem with that, while that sounds positive, and it sounds that that person is motivated and perhaps energetic and open to change, the problem with that response is that you're basically telling me, who's the hiring manager, that you don't know what you want to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, I can't help you because it's not my job to figure out where I could fit you into my organization. My job is to be able to figure that out quickly because you're telling me what you bring to the table. But if you don't tell me what you bring to the table, and just being open to something different isn't bringing anything to the table for the employer, right? So this is a time in your job search, your career exploration, that you really need to get some clarity about what your strengths are, what your top personality characteristics are that convey no matter where you are, no matter what you do. What are your top traits that carry across, whether it's socially, whether it's professionally, those characteristics that differentiate you from somebody else that you're going to utilize in your next move? What is it about your key skills? What do you have that preference for? What do you have that aptitude for? What do you want to do next in terms of your top skills? Most people, or just in general, skills fall into three general categories: working with data, working with people, and working with things. So think about your top skills, because those transferable skills, if you have a skill, you have to have an accomplishment or a success to validate that you truly have that skill. So if you indeed have that skill, and you love using that skill, that's the kind of skill that you're going to want to transfer into your next career. Okay, so you don't need more than 3, maybe 3 to 5, but identify what those transferable skills are. And again, we'll talk about this when we talk about targeting your resume. Those are the skills that you're going to want to use in your resume. And then be very clear on what makes you satisfied in a job. What are the things that make you happy? Write them down. What is it about the work values? What is it about the work preferences? If you go to our website, flexprofessionalsllc.com, we have a whole tab called the Job Seekers tab. And under that tab, in addition to being able to submit your resume, look at jobs, we have resources for job seekers. And our resources are divided into job search resources, work productivity resources, things that you need to know when you're on the job, technical resources, and then technical skill resources, which is also, they're good for career transition, how to upskill. But under the Job Seekers Resource tab, we have lots of worksheets here to help you get clear. It's under self-exploration to help you determine what your personality traits are, strongest traits, what your strongest skills are, what your work preferences are in terms of job satisfaction, in terms of work values, work environment. There's lots of worksheets to help you through this, but getting clear is really important. So this is just kind of a pyramid structure to kind of help you at first when you are exploring a career transition. You need to start broad and wide to figure out what it is you want to do next. So then the bottom of this pyramid are the types of things that you might want to do. The self-exploration, taking sort of some personality tests, some assessments in terms of what type of work is best suited for you. Again, our resource tab has all sorts of links to these types of tests, these profiles to help a test that will help show your personality traits and how they align to certain types of careers. And then as you go up the pyramid, you're doing things that will start to narrow down for you so that you can get to the point at the top of the pyramid to identify 2 or 3 top occupations that you might be interested, or 2 or 3 industries that you might be interested in, right? So some people want to transition to a different industry and keep the same job. Some people don't care what industry they are in, but they want to transition to the type of job they have. So this type of pyramid visual here is just sort of a way to help you go through that process, identify what you need to do. Okay, now getting into the nitty-gritty. You've assessed, you've reflected on transitioning, you've done some identification of skills, of traits, of industries that you might want to work in. So now how do you get there? How do you get from, okay, I know what I want to do, to I got that great job doing what I want to now do? And so these next tips are all focused on that. So the first one, and I would say if there's any takeaway from today, this is your most important practical tip. You've got to get out there and start connecting with people that are somehow associated with either the industry or the job that you want to get next. The more contacts that you have, the more one-on-one conversations, whether that be a coffee, a lunch, a Zoom, and a telephone call. And I would say that the in-person is probably that should be your goal. Your ultimate goal is to have a one-on-one conversation. If you can't do that, a Zoom or a Google Meet conversation, or lastly, a telephone call or even an email exchange, that's what you're aiming for here, okay? Super important statistic, 80% of jobs are found through one-on-one personal connections in today's workplace. You would think that's not the case. You could hide behind your computer for hours every day submitting your resume into that black hole, going on Indeed, going on to company corporate websites, looking up job vacancies and submitting your resume. You will be highly unsuccessful finding a job that way for most people. And that is super true for people looking to transition. And the reason why is that your resume, when you are transitioning, it has to contain your job titles of your prior jobs. It has to contain some of those bullets and some of those keywords of your prior jobs. And if you don't want to use those skills and you don't want to do that job anymore, your resume is going to get weeded out by the online systems because it's not going to match the job title and the job skills of the job post, and they're going to weed you out. So applying online is really unsuccessful for people with gaps in their resumes and for people in career transition. That's why finding people to talk to in the industry or in the jobs that you want in the future is the best way to go about doing this. And again, it's not, I want a job. It's not, I'm so desperate. I really want to transition. I need a job right now. If you do that, nobody's going to respond to your LinkedIn in mail. Nobody's going to respond to your email or your phone conversation. This is about taking a slower but more productive approach to job searching, where you're actually looking to find people, professional organizations, and other types of networking groups that that you can engage with in a much subtler way. So you're saying, hey, I'm really I'm really excited about exploring a career change. I love what you do. I just would love to learn more about what you do. Or I love what your company does. And I would love to learn more about the kinds of people your company hires, the kinds of work that your company does, your competition, um, your latest initiatives. So it's more about engaging with people who could help you by learning about them. And then through the process, they're going to say to you, what it is that are you interested in? And then at that point, you can start talking about your skills and your desire to transition. So LinkedIn is great for this. It is a great way for you to research companies. It is a great way for you to join professional groups that are related not to what you did, but to what you want to do. There are graphic design groups out there. There are project management groups. There are technology groups. There are HR forums, not just on LinkedIn, but online in general. There are meetups of HR professionals. There are professional associations. There are websites there are websites literally, if you Google professional associations, listing of professional associations, you will find tons of associations that you can search for related to what you want to get into next. Same thing with nonprofits. You can search for nonprofits that are related to perhaps the industry that you want to get into next. Connecting with those groups is incredibly important, okay? There's also other groups that can be super helpful for career transition. Your alumni network is great. Most colleges and universities have alumni, have career pages as part that alumni can access. And they often can connect you with mentors that are in the professional field that you want to get into. So doing that type of outreach is super important. And again, LinkedIn can be used to search people with a job title that you might want to do next. Search people in an industry or working for a company that you're targeting for your work. One of the biggest challenges of people who want to transition is they don't know what to do with their resume. They see their resume as a reflection of what they've done in the past. And it is sort of this 1 or 2 pages where you cram in everything you've done in your past. And it's less of a reflection of what you want to do in the future. Right now, it's so important for you to create a resume that presents you that lets people know that you want to transition, and that highlights the key skills that you have that you believe are critical to the job that you want next, or the job in the industry that you want next. So targeting your resume this way is really, really important. So how do you do this? One, in your profile of your resume. So you've got your resume. Regardless of whether your resume is chronological or skills-based, at the top of your resume, you should have some type of summary. So when I write resumes, I call it profile. I've seen it as highlights, summary of qualifications, or just a plain summary. In that section of your resume should be 1 to 5 sentences or bullets, or maybe a paragraph with some bullets underneath of key skills, that if I only read that section of your resume, I would know what you bring to the table and what you want to do next. So that's where you highlight your key personality traits that you want to use in your transition, the key skills that you transfer to the type of job that you want to do next. It's also a great area on your resume to let people know that you're looking to transition. So when I write a transition resume, I might put in that profile something like eager to transition to a project management role, utilizing my 10 years of technical expertise in Java development. So that's telling people, hey, I was a Java developer, did a great job doing it. I don't want to keep on doing that anymore. I want to actually get more involved in the project management piece. Okay, so that's a great way for you to highlight your skills and also to show people that you desire to transition. As you do your networking, as you do your connecting with people in the industry or in the job that you want next, as the more you talk to them and the more that they start to express to you the jargon of their industry, the jargon of the role that they're in, write down those words, because you're going to want to take that jargon and you're going to want to put it into your resume as the key words. So talk to people in the jobs that you want. Go search. The Department of Labor has a huge ONET. It's called the Department of Labor ONET. It is a huge online repository of jobs out there, of key competencies. You can search on different jobs and you can get a whole listing of all the required skills for that job. Make sure that those skills, those action verbs of that new industry or new job that you want are incorporated into your resume. So take a look at your bullets. Try to change the terminology to better reflect the industry that you want. So an example of that would be you do business development in the private sector right now, and you want to get into the nonprofit world, and you want your business development skills transferred most directly in the nonprofit world to either doing development for nonprofit or doing like membership or development. So start to soften, to wordsmith some of the things that you have done as a business development professional and start to incorporate some of the language that a nonprofit might use in your resume. So what else can you do to target your resume? Take out bullets that are not related to what you want to do next. Take out, even if you did something, it was 40% of your last job and you hated doing it and you want to transition out of sales, take the sales bullets out of your resume. Talk more about your customer relationship management or your project management skills or whatever it is, the skills that you want to use next that maybe you did as a sales professional, but it's not highlighted that way on your resume because your resume talks about sales quotas and meeting sales quotas, things like that. Take that stuff out. Take out a job or two if you have a long career that's totally not related to what you did and that was short-lived. That might bring up some bad thoughts about about that job in an interview. Take it out. Okay. So this is a real time to sort of start to try to modify it. Again, you have to be authentic and you can't lie about what you did, but you can tweak your resume in a way to highlight the skills that will be needed in your next job. Okay. Be your future self on social. So we've talked a little bit about this in the tip before about making connections. Be the person you want to be on LinkedIn. This is the beauty of LinkedIn. If you don't have a job right now, or even if you do, you can make yourself through your headline and your tagline. So your tagline on LinkedIn is right below your name. So for example, it defaults to your most recent job. So for me, on my LinkedIn profile, if I were to create it right now for the first time, it would default to partner co-founder of Flex Professionals. So my title would be partner co-founder. That tells me nothing about what I want to do or who I am. So I have changed my tagline. So you might want to change your tagline to what you want to be next. So you could put communications professional, or you can put marketing professional, seeking new opportunities, marketing professional seeking new opportunities, or marketing professional with a passion for nonprofit and association work, something like that. So use your profile and use your about section on LinkedIn to show why you are passionate about transitioning, and use it to write about what you have done to really think through this career change that you're looking for, why it's important to you, and the steps that you have taken to show that you're motivated to transition. And then go and leverage the LinkedIn social channels. There are thought leaders in every industry. Follow those thought leaders. It's going to help you gain insights about that industry that you can talk to in an informational or real interview. Look at who the influencers are. Start to look at curated content related to what you want to do. Start to share that content. Start to comment on that content and like it. All of that is going to help you brand yourself as the person that you want to be in the future. Next tip, learning. Upskilling is probably the number one. Well, there's two top ways to transition. So tip number 7 and 8 are probably the best ways for you to actually start to gain some confidence, which is super important in transitioning, and some experience that you can put on your resume, you can put on your LinkedIn profile, you can talk about in an interview, that is going to give the hiring manager some confidence that you have some of that experience or knowledge in order to actually do the job that you want to do. So upskilling is critical as part of a career transition. So as you connect, that tip number 4, as you connect with people, start asking them, what skills do I need? If I am to transition to do what you're doing, what do you recommend in terms of the types of skills that I really need to polish up on, or that I need to learn? And where can I find that type of training? Who are the best training providers out there? And how much does it cost, right? So if you're an example, if you are seeking to transition into the human resource field, receiving your, I don't know what, I think it's called your SHRM HR professional certification, it's gold in the industry. So go to the Society of Human Resource Management and look at their certifications and start to think about getting one of those certifications. If you're looking to get into a technical field, your community colleges have tons of great certifications related to data analytics, cloud computing, certified ethical hacker. There's a lot out there that is relatively inexpensive and is going to show that you have technical currency, which is really important when you transition. Get current on workplace productivity skills as well. On our website, we have lots of those under our resource section as well. And the more time that you invest in this and the more money, you're going to find that it is going to help fuel your return into your transition, because it's going to show the employer that you're really committed, and it's going to allow them to hire you, and for you to have that base and foundation to be able to do your job. So Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, which is free with a lot of public library cards. You can get an access to LinkedIn Learning for free. It used to be called lynda.com. There's tons of training courses out there that you can take. The next top way to gain some, put some beef on your resume related to getting experience in the job that you want to transition to. I mean, one of the biggest frustrations of job seekers is I'm not getting picked up for interviews because I have no experience on my resume for what I want to do. But how am I supposed to get experience if nobody's going to hire me? Well, you can get it through volunteering. Strategic volunteering is a great way to get experience, to develop work products, and to create some bullets on your resume related to what you want to do. So think of the skills that you need, think of the experience that you need in order to do what you want to do, and start to broaden the way you volunteer. A lot of times we volunteer right now reactively. Somebody asks us to help out and we say, yeah, sure. What nonprofits are out there in the field I want to get into? What organizations are out there that maybe need an accountant or need a graphic designer or need a marketing person that I could go in and say, you know what, I'm going to build a website for you, or I'm going to redesign your website, or I'm going to create some communications materials for you, or I'm going to create a technical white paper, or hey, nonprofit, I want to get grant management experience. Do you have any grants that you want to apply for that you don't have the capacity to apply for right now because you have nobody, everybody's overworked and you're not going to get to this grant? Can I write that grant for you? Can I take a stab at it? That's smart volunteering. So I put this women in technology up here. This is another example. If you want to get into a technical, if you are a female, you want to get into a technology company, even if it's not a technical role. Women in Technology in the DC metro area is a huge, vibrant networking group that has tons of opportunities for you to meet technology companies. Join that group. It costs you $40, or go to one networking event. Start to meet people. That's another example of how you smart volunteer. Most industry associations, Society of Association Executives, the Human Resource Societies, Human Resource Management, American Marketing Association, all of these different professional networking groups, they're volunteer run. Join the organization and then volunteer. Volunteer to plan a meeting, volunteer to plan an event, volunteer to help with membership. You're going to meet people in the industry that you want to work in, and those people will give you access to jobs and to job opportunities. This is the best way to do it, not applying online to jobs that where your resume is going to go into a black hole. Tip number 9. Another option here. So these 7, 8, and 9 are all tips to get experience on your resume. What's so bad about, especially if you have a job right now and you're getting paid, offer up to do some services for free in exchange for experience, in exchange to have a work product, to something on your resume. My guess is, if you do tip number 4, which is connect with people, my guess is you're going to meet people in your new industry, or you're doing the job that you want to do, that might be solopreneurs, that might have work at a company where they work at a small company. They're always in need of help. Hey, can I intern for you? Or if you're not working, or if you're working, can I do a project for you? I have extra time over the weekends, or I'm willing to work a little bit extra at night. Can I work on a project for you so I can gain a little bit of work experience that I can put on my resume to show people that I know that I want to make this change, and I put some money and some sweat equity into making this career change. And then you've got that work product that you can show to people in interviews. And these last 2 tips are really designed to make sure that you have the right perspective as you start to go through these a career transition. Sometimes getting from A to B is not a direct line, especially when it comes to career transition. Sometimes we get there through a much more circular path, a path that has a little bit more ups and downs and takes us, one way and then another, and then back to center. So understand that there's many ways forward in a career transition. Some people will dedicate more time to learning. Maybe they will quit their job and take a 4-month certification and do an intense route that way. Other people might not be able to afford to leave their current job, so might have to dabble, might have to take a side hustle in order to transition. You know, I can't afford to do it right now, so I'm going to dabble and take a little side gig that I can do at night related to the field I want to transition to. I'm going to get some traction, make sure I really like it, get some experience, and then I'm going to go and transition fully into that career. Sometimes some of us have to take 2 jobs at once, or realize that as part of the transition that you're going to have to maybe take a job at a lower responsibility, take a job at a lower pay in order to ultimately get that dream job in that new career field. So the bigger, the more extensive the pivot is, the longer it's going to take you to implement, right? So if you're just going from being an accountant at a technology company to being an accountant in a nonprofit, that might take you less time. But if you're transitioning from being a lawyer to a graphic designer, that might take you more time. It might require that you take a step down in pay, but remember, it's the bow and arrow effect. Sometimes you take a step back in order to launch yourself forward. So as long as you can afford to take a step down, and as long as you are taking the job that you're taking is the right fit for you, has growth opportunity, and is the right culture for you, then it might be worth it for you to take a step lower in pay or in responsibility. So those are factors that you have to really weigh as you're doing this. I'm going to quickly move through these slides. This is really more for people who are trying, that are in a current job and want to make a move. This is a great book. It's called Designing Your Work Life. It's a kind of a design thinking mentality. It's a process. And part of the process is taking a look at your imagining your quit. So what this book is telling you is sometimes we are so desperate to transition that we fail to take a look at our current opportunity and think, what is it about this job right now that I have that I don't like? Is there a way that I can shed some of the work that I don't like? Are there opportunities within my own company to transition to do something that's going to make me happier? And how could I possibly get there? So it's a way of looking at your current state and to see if you can actually make those smaller changes from within and to stay where you are, but to redesign your job. So for those of you that are in that position, sometimes we get so frustrated we just want to quit and leave, when maybe if we handled it the right way and actually really came up with a good proposal and presented it to our employer, they might actually be open to having us stay by allowing us to do something different. And I think that's very true right now, because employers are desperate to keep people because it costs so much to rehire and to retrain that they are realizing that keeping their workplace happy is really important. So this is just a way for you to think about doing that. And lastly, up here, I have my contact information that I will just keep on the screen. Please feel free to connect with me. We work with professionals in transition all the time. I would be happy to talk to you. I would be happy if you submit your resume and put it into our system, and you email me and tell me that you're looking to change. If our model is a fit for you, meaning that you are open to part-time opportunities or flexible work, I will tag you for an interview so that you can get to know our team, and hopefully we can give you access to jobs that might be of interest to you. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and to connect with me by email. I'd be happy to talk to you. Any questions?
We did have one question. The question was, it seems that internships are all for college people. What about internships for transitioning people at the 50 and up age?
So there's a lot out there now called returnships. That's like the key word. If you were to Google it, Google the word returnship, and you will find that there are many companies that are actually open to 50 plus professionals that are looking to return or to transition. But what I would also say, when you Google that, you will find language about returnships. And then once you do, I also think you could be even more successful by pitching it to a company. And I would start with the smaller companies because I think that they are less bureaucratic. They're often more creative, and they can flex and adjust more quickly. But find the company that you are companies that you're interested in working for, and go ahead and pitch it to them. Hey, would you be open to a returnship? I am a seasoned worker. I have all the soft skills that employers like you are looking for. I have thought really hard about this. I've been very diligent in my career exploration, and I think I have X, Y, and Z to bring to the table. I would love to get some work experience, and I'm wondering if you would be willing to talk to me about an opportunity where I would intern with you for 3 months and pitch it to them. And I think that that's a great way of doing it. And good luck, and let me know if you succeed.